How's it going, guys? It's your boy Kanji FPL and welcome back to the channel. On today's video, we're going to be going through my Game Week 1 team selection. I have been eagerly awaiting the start of the Premier League season and it is less than 5 days away. I am so excited and I'm sure you are as well. And so I've been tinkering with my draft over the last couple of weeks and I finally locked on something that I really like and I can't wait to show it to you guys. Before we go through my Game Week 1 team selection video, I did want to remind you of the things that I'm trying to improve on based on my season review from last year. Going into the season, there are 3 things that I want to improve on. The first is that I want to use my second wildcard later. What happened last year is that I used my first wildcard early, so that means that I had to use my second wildcard early because the lifespan on my team just deteriorated over time. And so what I want to do this year is that I want to use my first wildcard as late as possible so I can use my second wildcard whenever I want. So the gap between my first and my second wildcard is never going to be too big, so my team just doesn't disapparate over time. So that's gonna be my first lesson. In fact, that'll also go into my third goal, which is to take less hits. So I think the main thing is to just focus on having a later first wildcard, as well as just improving my captaincy selection overall. I was in the bottom 4% in terms of captaincy points based on last season within the elite community, and that's why I want to be improving on that factor going into this season. Without further delay, let's jump into my Game Week 1 team selection. And if you look at my structure, it's missing a 15.0 Norwegian robot in the striker position, and that's because I've gone without him. I've decided to go for an only Salah style of structure because whenever I spend time in my only Haaland structure or my Salah plus Haaland structure, I just felt handcuffed. I felt like I wasn't truly able to get to the differentials that I really wanted throughout my starting 11. During the offseason, there was news that came out that FPL have actually changed the bonus point system, favoring the attackers rather than the defenders. So my initial instinct was actually to spend less money in my defense. However, the more time that I thought about this idea, I just felt like the value defenders, players like Konza, Mikalenko, Robinson, I'm just not sure if they're going to be picking up many clean sheets or attacking returns, and because of that, I just feel like they're also going to be further away from the bonus. So if you really want to be getting points from your defense, you kind of have to pay up for the premium players, and that's why I've decided to go with a big at the back structure. And I'm going to be targeting the best defenders from the 3 best defenses in Gabriel, Trent, and Vardiol. Trent Alexander-Arnold is a generational defender. In fact, when I was looking at the fixture ticker over the first 6 weeks, Liverpool were at the top of it. And because of that, I knew that Trent was going to be the first name in my team sheet. I'm a Liverpool fan. I'm a really big Trent supporter. He's my favorite player in the league. So, of course, I have Trent. But it's not just my love that brings him into the team. It's because he is the #1 defender in the game in terms of expected goal involvement from defenders. And he's the type of player that has historical consistency, getting 200 plus points in multiple seasons in the past. I know that Liverpool are going to be under a new manager, so that has to be something to be factored into his historical data. But regardless, I just think when you have a talent like Trent and you have Virgil van Dijk as well as Alisson and net, I feel like there are going to be defensive returns from Liverpool. In fact, over the first 6 weeks, I'm expecting 2 clean sheets as well as 2 attacking returns from the GOAT, Trent Alexander-Arnold. When I'm looking at my second priority in terms of my premium defenders, it's going to be Gabriel. And I know that's going to be a controversial take. In the FPL game, Saliba is actually at 40% ownership, whereas Gabriel is only at 10% ownership. But for me, Gabriel was the first name that I was looking at from the Arsenal defenders. Because he was priced at the same level as a Saliba, I know there's going to be potential more rotation risk for Gabriel because Arsenal signed somebody like Calafiori, who's a left footer that can play at left back as well as center back. But Gabriel is the #1 aerial threat from set pieces. So whenever there's a cross or a corner, you're going to be expecting Gabriel to try his best to get on the end of it to score a goal. He scored 3 goals last year, and he also had 1 additional goal ruled out for offside, and he underperformed his underlying XG. In fact, last season, I didn't even own Gabriel or Saliba for 1 week the entire season. So Arsenal defense absolutely destroyed me. And instead of trying to go against them this year, I'm trying to make them my hero. So I'm going to be starting with at least 1. Arsenal have the best underlying data for expected goals conceded last year, and they're just the best defense in all of Europe in my opinion. And my bold take going to the season is that I think Arsenal may actually go undefeated. So I'm putting my money where my mouth is and I'm starting with at least 1 Arsenal defender within my team. Gabriel is higher in the pecking order for me than Ben White or Saliba. When I was looking at the projections from the bookmakers, they're expecting Ben White and Gabriel to have similar underlying expected goal involvements. Because of this, I would prioritize Gabriel because his expected goal involvements are leaning more towards XG and he's 0.5 cheaper than White. So that's why I've gone for Gabriel. I've also decided to avoid Saliba because I'm not sure if Saliba has the attacking threat to warrant starting with him even through some of the tougher fixtures, because Arsenal are playing Spurs, Aston Villa, and Man City all away from home in the first 5 weeks. So I think somebody like Saliba is somebody I could move to once the fixtures get better. I decided to avoid somebody like David Raya because he's not going to be getting many bonus points. He doesn't get many save points. And I just think the Arsenal defenders are where you really want to be spending your Arsenal spots rather than the goalkeeper position. The premium defender that's lowest in my priority would be Joško Vardiol. I've decided to go with him, one, out of fear, but two, because I just think it's a Manchester City attacking defender. What's not to like? Looking at the end of last season, Joško Vardiol was unreal. He got, I think, 6 returns in the last 7 games. It was absolutely crazy. And I remember it firsthand because I had Walker instead. What a mistake. And instead of going for somebody like a Ruben Dias or going for an Ake who's cheaper, I just think paying the 0.5 extra to get to Vardiol is a no-brainer. The fixtures to start the season for Manchester City are not that kind, however. They play against Chelsea, Arsenal, and Newcastle, and I'm not sure I would back them to keep a clean sheet. However, the Arsenal game is usually low scoring. When I'm looking at the fixtures in Game Week 2, 3, and 4, I think there will be at least one clean sheet against Ipswich, and then against West Ham and Brentford, I'd probably expect one clean sheet in those games. However, it wouldn't surprise me if they conceded in both of them because I could see Kudus, Bowen, Bumo, or Tony scoring in those matches as well. So I just think when I'm looking at the fixtures over the first 6 weeks, there's definitely one clean sheet and probably one attacking return, but I feel like the third return would give me the satisfaction of starting here. However, when we zoom out and look at the Manchester City's fixtures over the first 10 weeks, they have very good fixtures from Game Week 7 to 10, playing against the bottom half teams. So that's why I felt like I'd want to move to a Joško Vardiol later, so why not just start with him and save the transfer? So that's why I've decided to go here, but I'm not as locked or as confident in his returns as I am in Gabriel and Trent Alexander-Arnold. So if you're going for a 2 premium setup, I'd suggest just going for those two and avoiding Vardiol to start the season. The secret ingredient to my premium defense is going to be the GOAT, Alisson Becker. Now, I think Alisson is the best goalkeeper in the Premier League, and I think it's undisputed. I also feel like Alisson is the best goalie in Premier League history, solely because of the goal that he scored that locked Champions League football for Liverpool in that season where we were struggling. So I think it always feels really nice to have an additional Liverpool player in my team because I'm a Liverpool fan. But that's not the reason that he's there. The reason why I want Alisson as my differential is because when I've been watching Liverpool in preseason, they've switched their system and they're playing with a double pivot in midfield, meaning that instead of having one central defensive midfielder, they're going to have 2. And I think that will lead to more clean sheets. Now, I'm not sure if those clean sheets will come at the beginning part of the season, at the midway point, or towards the end, but I do know that Liverpool will be better defensively and the fixtures are so good that I want to be taking that risk. So that's why I've added the secret ingredient of Alisson Becker within my FPL team. Moving on to my midfield, I've got the captaincy armband on the Egyptian king himself, Mo Salah. Now, when I'm looking at the fixtures over the first 6 weeks, I think you can just captain Salah every single week. I can't believe there are people out there that are not owning Mo Salah. Like, that sounds crazy. He's been one of the best FPL assets over the last 5 years. In fact, he could be one of the best FPL assets of all time. And I just think you can captain him every week apart from Game Week 3 when he's away at Old Trafford against Man United. He has an incredible record there and it wouldn't surprise me to see him return, but I'm not sure if I want to captain him, especially when Saka is playing at home to a leaky Brighton squad. So that's why I think I'm going to be captaining Saka in Game Week 3 and then just captaining Salah in every other week. So with Salah, I think I'm comfortable and set with captaincy. And remember what I mentioned earlier, I was in the bottom 4% in terms of captaincy points last year. That's because I was messing around in a position like this where I'd move my captaincy to Bruno, maybe even an Eze, maybe an Isak. But this year, I'm just going to be captaining Salah for every week apart from Game Week 3. With Salah being priced at 12.5, I don't think that he represents value. The only value you get out of Mo Salah is by captaining him consistently. And so whenever Liverpool's fixtures turn, I will be looking to sell Mo Salah in terms of bringing maybe a Cole Palmer or a Son or Haaland back into my team if they're looking sharp. So that's what I'm going to be doing with Salah. Then I have Saka. Now, Saka's not just in my team because I'm going to captain him in Game Week 3. I definitely feel like he's one of the most underpriced assets. Last year, he picked up 220 points. Arsenal had 10 penalties and Saka only took 6 because he's a nice guy. So what if he's just more selfish this year? In addition, Arsenal did not go into the transfer market and buy someone that could take minutes away from Saka, meaning that he's going to be flogged once again. And I just think I feel a little bit sad for Saka because he's so overworked for Arsenal, overworked for England, but it's for good reason. He's one of the best wingers in the Premier League. In fact, I think he will be the best right winger in the Premier League at the end of this season. I'm looking to hold him as a set and forget option, especially when I see somebody like Palmer priced at 10.5, 0.5 more than Saka. I know that he was more consistent than Bukayo last year, but he also had a gazillion penalties. So in my mind, I think that Saka being 0.5 cheaper than Palmer is just an absolute lock, and I'm tempted to hold him for the entire season, but let's see how things play out. Moving on to my next midfielder spot, and this is going to be my differential at only 15% ownership, and that's going to be Bruno Fernandes, the captain of Manchester United, a 90-minute man, on the penalties, on the set pieces, on the free kicks. He's the talisman of Man U. Now, Bruno Fernandes has got to be one of the most overlooked FPL picks, and that's because we were so spoiled for points in midfield last year. Players like Foden, Saka, Son, Palmer, all just underpriced last year, so we never really needed Bruno. And United have been so poor last year that I think a lot of people are just put off. But I do feel that if Bruno is able to pick up 166 points and still pick up 20 underlying expected goal involvements while also giving away 2 penalties to Rashford and also missing a penalty, I think he has the ability to be a 200-point player at the 8.5 price point. With Bruno, it's going to be feast or famine because he's going to blank for 2 or 3 weeks and then he'll pick up an 11-pointer because he gets a goal as well as full bonus. He's just a bonus points monster. So if any of you decide to go with Bruno alongside me, just make sure you stay patient. And he's the type of player that if you're looking to save your wildcard for later, you just put him into your team and don't worry about him because he starts and plays 90s in every game. Moving on to my next midfielder spot, and that's going to be Emil Smith-Rowe at Fulham, and he was priced at 5.5. I honestly believe that he's 0.5 or 1.0 cheaper than what he should be. In fact, I think they've priced him like he's an Arsenal reserve player. I think if FPL knew that he was a Fulham player before the game was released, they probably would have changed his price to 6.5. Ever since Smith-Rowe has joined Fulham in preseason, he started 2 preseason games and got a goal in both of them. So it just goes to show you the quality of the player. And I think when you have somebody like this that couldn't break into the Arsenal squad, I don't think it's a slight on them. Arsenal are one of the best teams in all of Europe. It just means that Smith-Rowe is just not at the elite level, but he's still a good Premier League player. And I think Fulham have got a gem with him. And I think with somebody like Smith-Rowe, he's not going to be hogging the touchline. Even if he plays left wing, he'll be cutting into the central attacking mid positions and linking up the play between Andreas Pereira as well as Muniz, and he's playing against Leicester and Ipswich as 2 of the first 3 teams. I think you've got to just take the gamble and go for it to see what Emil Smith-Rowe is made of. So that's why he's my 4th midfielder, and my last midfielder is going to be Eberechi as a price of 7.0. Eze and Trent have been in every single one of my teams. You just have to remember how well Palace were at the end of last season. They were the hottest team in the league. Glasner absolutely came in and changed their season. They became incredible defensively and offensively. Elise, Mateta, and Eze were on fire. So I think starting without Eze is just a mistake. Now that Elise has left, you can argue that the creativity within the squad has decreased, but Palace have brought in Kamada to bring the creativity from midfield, as well as Ismail Assar to bring the creativity from the wing. So I think the creativity as a squad won't decrease, and maybe Eze himself will get more double teams, but I still feel that he's a good enough player to deal with it, and he's going to be on all the set pieces, on the penalties, on the free kicks, on the corners, 90-minute man, and I just feel like Eze picked up 15 underlying expected goal involvements in 2,000 minutes. So imagine he played the full season and he picked up 3,000 minutes. I'd be expecting 21 underlying expected goal involvements. And now with Elise gone, he's just nailed to be on the pens. I just feel like I'd consider buying him at 8.5. So at 7.0, he's a no-brainer to me. When I'm looking at my setup as a whole, I really like the structure that I've gone for, spending the money in positions that I want in defense, going for a very stacked midfield, and then a cheap upfront structure. Now I can of course get destroyed by players like Watkins, Havertz, Mateta when he's fit, Solanke. They're going to be strikers that pick up the points and I won't be able to move to them. But I think I'll be able to get enough points from my midfield and my defense that I'll be able to suffice for the lack of points I might get from my striker position. I want to emphasize that I have a 5.5 attacker on the bench in case one of my attackers is ill or misses just one game. I don't need to spend a transfer on them because I have the depth. In addition, I'm going to be playing my premium defenders every single week. However, I have two defensive options on my bench. I've gone for Barco from Brighton. He's a 4.0 playing defender. He's playing left back for Estupiñán. However, they did sign somebody in the transfer market just a few hours ago in Kadioglu, who is going to be playing either left back or right back. He's a Turkish player, so I know he's good, but I'm just not sure if he's going to go right into the team based on how well Barco has been playing. My dream is to just have Barco play Game Week 4 at home to Ipswich, and I'll be able to start him in my team that week. But apart from that, I just think even though Barco's effective ownership is so high and he may go down in value if he's benched, but I just think it's worth the risk at 4.0. And my differential, and he's going to be the last on my bench, and some of you probably may not have even heard of him, and his name is Leif Davis. And I know this sounds like some sort of exotic plant, but let me break down this differential for you. I decided to go for him. I could have gone for any 4.5 defender. I could have gone for a Konza, who has good fixtures in the short term, or a Dunk, or an Anderson, who plays for a better defense. Leif Davis could be a game breaker, and he's similar in archetype to somebody like Alfie Doughty. So let's look at Alfie Doughty's data. In the championship in 22-23, he started 25 games and picked up non-penalty expected goal involvements of 0.25, and that led to 7 attacking returns. When he came to the Premier League, he started more games, and he picked up very similar underlying expected data of 0.23, and because he played more games, he had more attacking returns. Keep in mind that his non-penalty expected goal involvement only decreased by 10%. Now, when we're looking at Leif Davis, he's a different kettle of fish. This guy was the player of the season in the championship, in the entire league last year. That's how good he was. He picked up underlying data of 0.32 expected goal involvement in 43 starts, ending up with 20 attacking returns. This man is like the Trent Alexander-Arnold of Ipswich, and Ipswich are kind of like a Cinderella story where they've had back-to-back promotions. Ian McKenna and the manager is incredible. He's definitely doing a great job there, and Leif Davis has been leading the way there. He's been talismanic for them. So the question is, will his style of play from the coach be able to translate into the Premier League, and how much is the drop-off that we're expecting for Leif Davis? Now, we did see Alfie Doughty dropped off by 10%, but let's be conservative and assume that there's a drop-off of at least 25%, and that would take his attacking data to 0.25 non-penalty expected goal involvement per 90. And where would that place Leif Davis amongst the other Premier League defenders? Well, that would put him on par with somebody like Pedro Porro or Estupiñán or Gusto, better than Vardio, better than Ait-Nouri. So it just goes to show you that even with a 25% cut to his underlying data, which is probably going to be in line, I just feel like he's still going to be a good pick. And Alfie Doughty picked up 100 points last year. He picked up 12 attacking returns and 2 clean sheets. I'm sure Leif Davis, that has better underlying data, can probably match that. And I think when you're comparing your last defender to like a Konza or a Dunk, I'm just not sure that whenever they're called upon that you're confident in them getting a return. In fact, when I'm looking at the Ipswich fixtures, they have very difficult fixtures in Game Week 1 and Game Week 2, but when we look at Game Week 17, 18, 19, and 20, they're also difficult, meaning that Game Week 3 to Game Week 16 is a gorgeous run. So if they're ever called upon to play, you'd be confident in them getting some sort of clean sheet or attack return. At least there'd be a chance. And so with the structure that I've got, I'm not looking to play Leif Davis. But after Game Week 2, he's just going to be the first defensive option in case Gabriel or Vardio are benched. I'll be able to cheer on for some sort of attacking return. Keep in mind that I'm not trying to spend a single transfer over the first 5 weeks. My goal is to just roll as much as I can, hoping that I won't pick up any injuries. Now, I know that my team looks very different than most of the other content creators, and I think that's okay. I really like my team. I like the differentials that I'm going for, the double Liverpool defense, as well as a newly promoted player like Leif Davis, and that's what FPL is all about. Especially with pricing being so different this year and being so accurate, I think there should be a lot of variety within FPL teams. So hopefully over the course of this video, I've been able to provide some value to you. So if I have, just, unsubscribe, hit the dislike button, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Take care. Bye.